Behind the sprawling trees of Glen Cove lies one of the most important institutions in America and Long Island. It is the Holocaust Memorial and Tolerance Center in Glen Cove. Long Island has strong roots to the Holocaust, and on this episode, we tour to find out what that is and learn how to be upstanders and champions against hate. Join me as I tour the center. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for being here today.
So how did we get here? How did the center start, or how was it founded?
That's a great question. So the Holocaust Center was founded in the early 90s by local officials, by clergy members, and also, most importantly, by Holocaust survivors. They wanted to create a memorial on Long Island for the Holocaust and for the family and friends that they lost.
And what is your mission?
Our mission is really to teach tolerance. We use the lessons of the Holocaust to not only talk about antisemitism, racism, bullying, but also the hate that we find ourselves in today. How do we teach students and adults to react swiftly and safely to words and acts of hatred?
Long Island, Glen Cove is where the center is located. Obviously you're here, but are there any survivors in Long Island?
We're really lucky. We have a really large group of survivors that not only work with us as our speakers, but are also part of our wonderful community of remembrance.
The Holocaust is a somber period of our history. So what does one encounter when they come to the center? What do they experience?
Well, our number one priority is to make sure that when people come to our museum, they enter safely and they leave safely. And by that we mean emotionally. We know this is a really hard topic. So they are going to encounter stories of the lives that were lost, but also the incredible stories of those who survived. They're going to get to engage with a deeply troubling, but also a deeply personal history directly tied to people who still live on Long Island.
Helen, how did the Holocaust start? Was it one law? Was it systematic? Like, how did it get here?
That's a great question. So the Holocaust really begins with an ancient history of anti-Semitism, which we take all the way back to the Crusades. And it was this systematic, ingrained prejudice and hatred against Jewish people that really led to the rise of anti-Semitism in Germany. And due to that rise of anti-Semitism, we then had humiliation, isolation, and then eventually the mass murder of millions of Jews.
Not just millions, we're talking over 6 million Jews.
Over 6 million, yes.
I've been to Auschwitz and I've toured, and that was hard for me. And the lessons that I've picked up were instrumental in me wanting to learn the history. How did you first learn about the Holocaust?
Oh, thank you for asking. So I learned about the Holocaust in a 9th grade classroom. I was in my high school and I happened to meet this beautiful little boy.
This guy right here,
his name is Werner. And I met him as a 9th grader and I heard his testimony and it shook me so deeply. And in that classroom, I decided that I wanted to prevent genocide. And as a 9th grader, I had no idea how I was going to do that. But I went to university, I got my degree in Holocaust and Genocide Studies, and this little man really showed me how I wanted to be in the world, who I wanted to be in the world. And I now have the absolute privilege of still working for Werner. He's still a survivor that speaks for us.
Do we get to talk to survivors when we're here?
Yes, of course.
What kind of exhibits do you have?
We have wonderful historical photographs, personal images from our survivors, so many artifacts that connect us to this history. But instead of me telling you, why don't I show you?
Let's do it.
So welcome to Gallery 2. Here we really talk about the rise of Hitler in 1933 all the way through the turning point of Kristallnacht in 1938.
How did anti-Semitism begin? How did Hitler have a chance to do that? Was it through like newspapers? Was it through, how did he push this agenda through?
Hitler had a very powerful propaganda machine, but he was also working with a nation that had been humiliated and destroyed during World War I. People were hungry, they were unemployed, they were very, very angry, and they looked for someone to blame. And Hitler very quickly blamed Jewish people along with many other target groups. And because people were so angry and so dissatisfied with their nation, they really latched onto these ideas.
Can anyone come to the center? I mean, I have a 10-year-old cousin who loves to learn, but is the message too heavy for him?
It is a very heavy message, which is why as a museum we operate under the philosophy of safely in and safely out, emotionally speaking. So that means that we're very careful with the materials that we do expose to our younger audiences too, but we make sure that we can engage with them in all different kinds of ways of learning, through our technology, through hands-on tactile experiences, to really make sure that it's age appropriate but also informative. So we suggest our museum for 10 and up.
How many galleries do you have? Because this is gallery 2, and there's a lot here.
Yeah, we're actually a much bigger museum than people think. So we have 6 permanent exhibitions, and we have 1 special exhibition, which is constantly changing with new exhibitions to draw in different crowds.
If we want to learn more about how to be, as you guys say, upstanders, how do we do that?
That's another great question. So the way to be an upstander is really to stand up and speak out when you see hate in any of its forms. That's going to be racism, bullying, prejudice, isolation, humiliation, antisemitism. When you see these things or you hear racist jokes or stereotypes or prejudice, you need to call it out, which I know can be difficult to do in the moment, but it really is the right thing to do.
If we want to read more information about it or can we come here to study, to learn?
Yeah, that's a perfect question. We actually have one of the largest collections of Holocaust books on the island. Over 7,000 volumes are in our library, and I'd love to take you there next.
I would love to see it. 7,000 volumes? Mm-hmm. Like, this is something I truly didn't know. I would definitely love to see it.
Thank you, let's go. So welcome to the Lewis Posner Memorial Library. This is one of the largest collections of Holocaust books on Long Island. We have over 7,000 volumes. Some were purchased, but many of them are donated to us. And we have books that range all different kinds of age spans, from young children all the way up to Holocaust scholars. It's an amazing resource for people on Long Island. Anybody can come to our library. You can study, you can read, you can take out our books. You can also check out our archive room.
An archive room? So besides the 7,000 books that you have here, you have an archive room?
Yes, we are the caretakers of many of the artifacts of Holocaust survivors on Long Island. They've been donated to us over the years, and we take very, very good care of them.
Can I see some of them?
I'd love to show you.
All right, let's go.
So welcome to the Center's archive room.
Okay.
This is where we have over 300 private collections from people from all over the world, but predominantly of Holocaust survivors. So these are their personal items from their time during the Holocaust, and they tell all those really personal stories that we wouldn't have access to otherwise. So these are some of our private collections. We have things like photographs, newspapers, and very rare artifacts.
What stories do they tell?
They usually tell the personal narratives of different families, people who were lost. They tell stories of survival, of escape, and most importantly to us, of resistance.
How do you know when to bring out the items from here? Do you use them for classes? Do you bring them for education lessons when you go to different schools?
Mm-hmm. So these artifacts are predominantly kept here because they are so precious. So we really use them for research. We bring them out for special exhibitions, and we bring them out for different scholars to take a look at, to write about, to document. So they're really here to bear witness to the history of the Holocaust. So Kaleen, welcome to our final gallery. This is our gallery that talks about modern day genocide, human rights violations, and most importantly, how to inspire young people to be upstanders today.
So as I pass through this gallery, I see a number of leaders, or upstanders as you call them, but you also mentioned other genocides. Why was it vital for the center to include these references?
It was vital for us to include this because at the heart of our mission is that we stand up against all intolerance and all genocide. And therefore we have to include the narratives of genocides from the past and also current day genocides, along with modern day upstanders, to really talk about our entire mission of standing up against prejudice and intolerance.
I know that you do a lot of work with youth. Can you tell me more about that, and what kind of lessons will you learn or do you teach?
Definitely. So I'm the Director of Youth Education, and the biggest privilege of my job is getting to work with thousands of young people all across Long Island. And we have an amazing Claire Freelander Education Institute where we do hands-on workshops with students where we talk about tolerance, bullying, racism. We have fantastic lesson plans for them so that they don't just take the history of the Holocaust, but they learn how to apply it to their lives. What are they going to do? How are they going to become upstanders? And I would love to show you our upstairs classrooms.
Let's go.
So this is one of our classrooms where we do some wonderful workshops with students. And here we're so lucky because we get to do some real hands-on learning with them. And we're always trying to use some of our documents. So I grabbed some out of the museum to show you. So this is one of our most popular with the kids. This is a photograph of Madison Square Garden from 1934.
Wait, Madison Square Garden?
Madison Square Garden, just across the bay. And it is a pro-Nazi rally. So for kids to see, people in this country supporting Nazism in 1934, to see the swastika connected to the American flag, it's a big image, and it's a wonderful way for us to talk about antisemitism, prejudice, and racism in this country and our own history with it. This is one of our most popular images, and it really ties into some of our newspapers. So this is a Nazi newspaper that we have called Der Stürmer, which literally means the attacker. So using this Nazi newspaper, we can show students what people were reading in Nazi Germany, the propaganda that they observed, and then also that same photograph of Madison Square Garden is right on the back.
Wow. And these are actual replicas of what they looked like.
Yep, we really owned this newspaper, and we made a complete reproduction of it for students. We did the same thing with our final newspaper, which is talking, it says Hitler is dead. So it's really the death of Hitler. And getting students to think about what would it have been like to walk down the street and see this newspaper? Where are your brothers and fathers and uncles? They're fighting somewhere in Europe. So what would this day have felt like? And we reproduced the entire thing so they can see literally the weather, the crossword puzzle, women's fashion, everything that would have been happening on that day, to really put them inside this history so they can understand the gravity of it.
And these are all things you can find here and really experience.
All of the real ones are in our archive.
I'm blown away by how much you guys have here to talk about the Holocaust.
Yeah, we're really lucky. We're an incredible resource on Long Island. And we're always looking to connect with more students, more adults, with police, nurses, anybody who'd like to come for our programming.
Well, that's a great question. Connect with everyone. So what happens if you're not physically here? Like, what can you do?
That's a great question, because that's a huge problem for a lot of students that we encounter. And we're able to video conference all over the world. Anywhere, anytime, we can connect you with a Holocaust survivor right in your classroom.
And you can actually talk to someone who went through some of the ghettos or who escaped the actual...
Yep, you can hear from a live witness. And I can actually take you there now.
Wow, you have one going on?
Yes.
All right, let's do it.
So this is one of our classrooms at the Claire Freelander Education Institute, and this is where we do all of our video conferencing with students all over the world. And today we actually happen to be lucky enough that Mireille Taub, one of our Holocaust survivors, is here to join us today. And Mireille is about to video conference with a student who has never met a Holocaust survivor before.
Really? All right, I think it's coming. I'm going to let Mireille finish her call. But just know that anyone can speak with a survivor no matter where you are in the country. You can do a video call.
But I just want to say thank you so much for being here today. You have given me a lot of things to think about. You've asked me some wonderful questions.
Thank you.
And I really hope that you feel inspired to be an upstander.
I am.
So please remember to stand up, speak out, and lean into the courage that's within you to really make a difference in the world.
I'm transformed, and I will definitely take that with me and share it with everyone who is watching or who I meet. Thank you so much,
So
Helen.
lovely to meet you.
All right, I'll see you.
Sounds good. Bye-bye.
It has been an incredible journey to tour the center. To find out more, look at the information on your screen. I'm Kaleen Leveile. Thanks for watching. If you have any comments, cool facts, or suggestions for our next Did You Know segment, send us a note at info@patv.org.